that this would be a whole different story. They're basically saying they're willing to talk to us and consider helping us. They just want to know what's it going to take. Because like I said, you know, you go through that flow chart of when we make the decisions. Once we know what we're going to do, then we can start putting numbers to it. And then we can go to the MSBA and say, here's what we're going to do, here's what it's going to take, here's how much money we're thinking it's going to be, would you help us? And they would have to, you know, develop a deal with the town. At the same time, we've gone to the town and asked to have this issue put on a special town meeting warrant for August 9th, 7 o'clock, right here. In that warrant, we asked for a little bit of money, well, not a little bit, it's a lot of money, but in comparison, it's about $100,000 out of stabilization just to get us through what we're doing right now. And even what we're doing right now is more than $100,000. When I talked to the people up at Lexington, and I talked both to the superintendent and their business manager, they said it cost them about $1 million to keep the building open for the year, about $900 in cleanup and testing and all the stuff they had to do just to open the doors and keep them open for the year, and about $90,000 to $100,000 in additional heating costs beyond what they had already projected to spend. It's the kind of money that, you know, we don't have in our budget, neither the $900,000 or the $100,000. You know, we had a budget to teach, run the school, get the books. So that's why we went to the selectmen to ask for some help. Eventually, if it passes on town meeting, we'll have to come back in September, I think the 13th, and actually go into the ballot box and say yes or no. Otherwise,
what if it's no? You know, what if people don't? You know, I mean, I know there's a lot of people who don't want to give money to the school. Like, is there? You know, what are we going to do?
I honestly
don't
know.
Even busing the kids to other schools is going to cost a lot of money.
Well, that's why this keeps falling asleep. That's why I said, you know, on August 8th, we'll have to make, do we go and open the school, and what's it going to take, how much is it going to cost to clean, do the ventilation, all that. Then the other fork in the road would be, if we're not going to open the school, we're still going to need money because we still got to clean the stuff inside the school that we're going to need, you know, vacuum and wipe up all the desks, the chairs, the books, everything. That's going to be an expense. Transportation is going to be an expense. Cleaning another site is going to be an expense. Opening up another site and moving stuff to the other side. Yeah, no matter how you cut it, it's going to be a big dollar bill.
And the state won't. There's no like emergency disaster.
The state may. You know, I know they have some rules of thumb, certain things they'll pay for, certain things they won't, and then they have a reimbursement rate for the green projects. For us is like 46%. I know for Lexington, they didn't get a ton of reimbursement for the original stuff, but when they went and talked about building a new building, they got a reimbursement rate for the new building. I don't know what we're going to do, but my hope is that they will participate with us. We've had some conversations with them. They're just waiting for us to say, do we go this way or do we go that way?
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Julie Gisparo, 2 children in the middle school. August 8th is the date, so you'll know whether you're taking the route of going to alternate sites or cleaning up the school. So that leaves you 4 weeks, roughly?
Yes.
Till the start of the school year.
Yes.
Without even having a plan in place yet as far as the alternate sites versus cleaning the school, how could we possibly start school in September?
Well, we don't necessarily not have a plan. We just haven't finalized it. I mean, I'm collecting all kinds of data. Like I said, I was, you know, texting companies that provide modulars. I've been calling the other superintendents. I've been asking them, okay, if we use your school, how much is that going to cost? You know, what condition the school's in. I've talked to the business managers, send me some information. What things do you think we need to do to your school to get it up and running? So that information is coming in, and eventually will have to be shared with the school committee, and that's going to be part of the here are all the things that we're going to have to consider of if we decide not to open, of all these ideas that we've kicked around, here's data that you can use to make that decision.
But you're going to be able to do all that in 4 weeks. Obtain the funding, get the approval, get a plan in place where you have certain dates hit to say, all right, we're going to clean this many rooms versus... It just doesn't sound like it's feasible. And as a parent, we want to be able to plan ahead for whatever, daycare or alternatives as far as schooling, maybe private school.
The cleaning, I can tell you, we've been told it can be done.
Okay.
It's manpower issues, and the more manpower you throw at it, the more money it's going to cost. But they tell me it can be done. Transportation, I'm sure I can get the companies that bid on the recent transportation contract to come back and give us an idea of what it would cost for shuttling. The rental of space, that's going to be a decision the school committee has to make versus, how much does it cost to rent the space, what the distance is, which one is a better idea. There's going to be preferences of people. I don't want to go there, but I'll go there. There are some of those things that are just decisions that have to be made, but the biggest piece for me would be, can we clean the stuff, and then can we move it? And, so basically you'd have two crews, one here cleaning the stuff, one somewhere else cleaning that stuff, and then having a crew moving it, like the week before school starts.
But like you said, it's dependent on how much manpower you can put on it.
They said they can.
Right, so it's feasible. You can do it within that 4-week time period. So again, it will go back to the funding, right? So determining if we can...
The funding, I'm going to be honest, we're barreling ahead. We have the special town meeting on the 9th, but we won't have a fixed amount until September because we're not going to have the ballot until September. But we're going to do that anyway.
Okay.
So right now we're pulling money out of our own budget in the hopes that we'll get the money back, whether it be from town, MSBA, from the state, a combination of both.
So will it be at one point, if we had to go the alternative, will there be a point where you'll be able to let us know that? Is it the October 8th date?
I'm hoping really close to that.
Okay.
Because I would love to have the numbers, or at least an idea of the numbers for the 9th, so the school committee can present it at town meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Colley. My name is Michael Sullivan. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Westport School Committee. A couple questions I have. I think it's an opportunity to ask the questions of the specialists that you've been working with. One question I have is, I know we received some tests the first time the school committee as a group learned of the contamination in the air quality was on July 15th. There were some tests that was presented. However, they had no dates on them. I asked that we receive a new report with dates on when those tests, because there were a variety of tests, and we still waiting for information in order to absorb what those reports mean. I might also request that we have some form of an executive summary, similar to that May 25th report that we learned about on July 18th, but to bring us up to speed with some of the options. I'd urge that those reports not contain the words maybe, probably. I'll look at that afterwards, thank you. Because in order for the school committee to put our hands around this information, it's coming in piecemeal. And it's very important that we have the dates of the scientific information that's gathered so that we can ask questions. One of my questions that I've come up with since looking at that information and having had some great explanation, and I applaud the specialties that you're all involved in, but particulates, if I have that correct, containing PCBs were collected attached to dust particles in the air quality samples. Is that pretty close? Because what my question is, I don't believe we've yet identified how this PCBs was attached to particulates that became dust. Have we followed the trail? Do we know where it's coming from? My understanding, and I've asked previously, although we're removing mastic from the ceilings, we don't know that that's the source of the contamination. My understanding is if we had a kettle of PCBs in the middle of the building boiling, it wouldn't, or heated up, I shouldn't say boiling because I don't know at what point it becomes gaseous. But PCBs in and of themselves do not become airborne. So that falls into a couple of scenarios that I would imagine would come out of someone's report, is that we should have a regular operational management plan that identifies for all our buildings what are we doing to maintain that there isn't any breakdown. The ceiling tiles aren't falling down. They're not creating dust as far as anything I've received from any of the committees. So that's the particulate question is what I'm directing to the board.
What do you want to answer? I'll take a stab at that. You're correct in that PCBs were used in heat kinds of transfers and transformers because they have a very high boiling point. So, when you use PCBs right out of the bottle, so to speak, they probably have some lower concentrations of volatiles in them. So you may have some off-gassing of volatile organics earlier when the product's first used. We're talking about 40, 50 years ago that these PCBs were in the caulking, and over that course of time, it's in my judgment, those volatile organic compounds are long gone. So the particulates, as you indicate, are the results of chalking after a while, dust particles, that type of thing. Same thing for mastics or anything else. As I understand it, we have a variety of locations in the building that we have detected PCBs, and I think the air concentrations that you were seeing is going to be from one or all of those sources. So right now we're looking for the primary source of the caulking, but we do know it's in windows, we do know it's on doors. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, it partially does. I just wondered if there was any way to segregate the dust particles to say, okay, that came from caulking on windows, that percentage came from ceiling tiles. I'm a little unclear on the source of the contamination.
He's talking more about specific, trying to narrow down a congener. Is it in the caulk?
I'm unclear. Are you looking for us looking at individual PCB congeners and using that as a target as to the PCBs and other sources, or are you indicating that as far as right now we're doing some isolation of different sources to determine whether...
I'll try to explain, and maybe my question just isn't making any sense, but a congener is over my head as it is, so I have to be careful on how I ask my questions. When I go through my house in the spring and have yellow dust all over the house, I know it came from the oak trees outside. Okay? So I'm just wondering if there's any way to look at the dust particles that the air quality samples have collected and start to identify what they're, the PCBs are attached to something. Mm-hmm. And is there any way to identify that, to trace back to the oak tree that it came from?
You're talking about some type of particulate analysis to look at the...
That would probably be the term used.
Yeah, I'm not sure you'd be conclusive. You could try to do that. It's not a typical analysis laboratories do. There is something called a particulate analysis that identifies things as carbon black and soot and sand and crystals and that kind of stuff. We've identified PCBs in that building in enough sources right now that